I know we may have some more trickle in, which is just fine, but for the sake of time, I will go ahead and kick us off. Welcome everyone to our very last Tiger Talk Parent and Family webinar of the summer. My name is Casey Ford, and I serve as the Assistant Director for Student Transitions in the Center for Student Leadership and Engagement here at Clemson University, which means that our office does a lot of things for a lot of the people, and one of those groups is our parents and families. So we want to make sure that as you are continuing to support your student throughout this transitional period, as you continue to prepare them for their next steps into Clemson, you too feel supported as a parent, and that you too feel like you know the people and the places and the resources who exist to help you do exactly that. And so if you've followed along with us for any of our programming throughout the summer, I certainly hope that that has been your experience. I hope these webinars have been helpful. And we are excited to round out the semester with this last one. So as you may know, this one is Tiger Talk Next Steps for Success. So we are in the very first day of August. We are transitioning into that point of our experience and of your experience. And so we're kind of marking this transition from the summer to August and to the start of school. And so want to be able to help you think through what are those next steps. What do I need to be thinking about as a parent? What should I be encouraging my student to look forward to as they get ready to come onto campus in a few days? So that is the focus for our Tiger Talk this evening. And you can see our offices who are represented here on the screen, and then they will, of course, give their own introductions in just a moment. So today's agenda, we're kind of in the middle of our welcome now. And again, I'll give our presenters a chance to tell you a little bit more about who they are and what area they represent in just a moment. The bulk of our time together will be each of them presenting content. So going throughout their area with their slides, and then throughout that time, you're welcome to submit questions, which we'll talk a little bit more in just a second, but we'll also have a few minutes at the end to cover any questions and get those answered that maybe we missed throughout the program. We will wrap up with some closing remarks and reminders, and then that will be our program. A couple reminders, though I'm sure you are far too familiar with Zoom and Zoom webinar at this point. This is the program that we're using tonight. And so very similar to a Zoom meeting, which I'm confident you have experienced, but there are a couple additional tools. So just want to note that number one, audio and video has been muted just for the sake of clarity as we're kind of focused on panelists throughout the program tonight. You'll see on your toolbar that there is a Q&A button, a question and answer button. If you will use that to submit questions, that is how, that is how we will field those this evening. So you'll simply click that button, submit any questions you have throughout the program. We all as hosts and panelists have the ability to either answer those live or answer those in the Q&A button throughout the program, which we will do our best to do. The last note is that this webinar is being recorded. So as soon as it finishes up recording tonight, we're able to get that processed on our end and then send that out for future use. So I will send that through the Clemson Parent and Family Experience portal, typically about a week after these webinars is when we get those recordings sent out. So no worries if we go too fast or if you miss things or think of other questions, you will be able to come back and watch this later. And with that, I will hand it over to our panelists who will each introduce themselves right before we get started. So, Dr. Sue Wharton.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sue Wharton. I have the privilege of serving as the director of Clemson's Academic Success Center. I've been at Clemson since the year 2000. So I'm on my 23rd year here at Clemson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Neil Burton. I've been at Clemson since 1985 as a student and have been working here since 1992. So it's my pleasure to see you this evening and look forward to chatting with you in just a few moments.
Hey friends, my name is Matthew Boudreau, and I have the privilege of serving as the Assistant Director of Orientation Programs in the Center for Student Leadership and Engagement here at Clemson, going on year 3, but this will be my 4th welcome week that I helped put on for the institution in my time here.
And then our fourth panelist, Tessa Byer, who serves as our university ombuds, will join us a little bit later in the program, but wanted to make sure and introduce her to you all as well. All right. And to kick us off, Dr. Sue Horton.
Terrific. Thank you, Casey. And Casey, are you going to be driving the slideshow for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can go to next slide then, please. So we look at ourselves here at the Academic Success Center as being the campus hub for supporting undergraduate student learning and success through the services that we offer. And you can see at the bottom of the screen there some of the things that we focus on. We want to help students learn strategies for optimal learning. We want to help them develop and strengthen their skills. And we also want to help them become more confident and independent learners through our services. So what we are trying to do here at the center is to connect students with either our professional academic coaches who meet one-on-one with our students or our peer learning leaders who try to help our students learn new approaches to mastery of course material. The nice thing with our peer learning leaders is that they've taken the course before, they've done well in the course, and so they can share with students tips for mastering the course material, tips for better study habits, more effective learning habits. So I want to start out with our peer learning support programs, and those are all led by undergraduate peer leaders. Those are students that have earned an A or B in the course. They've gotten recommended by an instructor or staff member, and they are students who've expressed an interest in wanting to help other students be successful at Clemson and to serve other students. We ask those students to go through a training that happens at the beginning of the semester and to take a one-credit course during their first semester of employment to help them learn communication skills, facilitation skills, and best practices for learning. We offer both tutoring and PAL as services for our courses, and we support over 100 courses through PAL and tutoring. And you can see there, we try to train our student leaders to be supportive in those sessions, especially in our PAL sessions, to focus on collaboration and learning with other students, and to help them kind of create the learning experience that the student wants to have. Academic coaching is designed to help students focus on things outside of courses. So our peer learning support programs focus on the specific courses and the material in those courses. Academic coaching really is driven by the student. The student decides what are the things they'd like to work on, what are the things they'd like to concentrate on. And the first appointment with an academic coach is when the student sits down and says, these are the things I'd like to focus on. The coach will ask, how can I help you? What's important to you? What would you like to prioritize? And we try to help students to see themselves, their skills, and their study habits from a fresh perspective. You can see here on some of the things that we try to focus on in coaching sessions that are strategies students can learn and apply for all courses at Clemson. We often find that students are struggling to learn how to manage their time and prioritize and figure out how they're going to get everything done during the week. And so we'll focus on those in coaching sessions. We like to call ourselves accountability partners too, where students set out what their goals are. The conversations will often be on what are the best ways for the student to work towards achieving those goals. And then future coaching sessions talk about what progress have you made toward attaining your goals? How can we help you keep making forward progress? Next slide, please. Our success strategy workshops are 30 to 45-minute sessions about specific topics. So if a student wants to think about how to create a study plan or a test prep plan, and they want specifically to talk about those things and learn new ways of approaching those topics, they can come to one of our success strategy workshops. Procrastination is something we hear about a lot from students. And so we offer sessions on how can you avoid procrastination? How can you set yourself up, your time up for accomplishing everything you need to get done? But those are one-time workshops focused on particular topics that students can attend based on their interests or the things they think that they would benefit from learning more about. Our Jumpstart workshops are offered at the beginning of the fall term. If your student hasn't already received one, they should be receiving a postcard in the mail about our Jumpstart sessions. We offer 3 different sessions on the Tuesday before classes begin. And the workshops are really aimed at helping students make a successful transition in the academic environment. And you can see here, they're focused on specific courses and how to do things at the college level, what professors expect in their courses as opposed to what teachers expected in high school. We also focus on transfer students for these workshops and trying to help transfer students make a successful transition from their previous institution to Clemson and learning the expectations at Clemson as well. So students have the opportunity to register for the workshops. There's a QR code if you'd like to learn more about the workshops, but be on the lookout for your student to receive the Jumpstart workshop card in the mail. Thanks, Casey.
Mhm.
Just a little bit about what students tell us. We seek feedback from students to learn about what their experience is like at the ASC, what worked well for them, what we can do differently, what we can improve upon. And so you can see here that from students who've completed surveys, we feel like we're achieving our aims of helping them feel more confident, helping them to feel committed to their educational goals. One of the things that we try to do in coaching is to try to help students see how they can make more productive choices with their time. And overall, students feel like they have personally benefited from utilizing our services. One of the things that we know from the literature on student success is it's not only the effort and the time that students put in, but it's also about how they view themselves. And so our goal is to help students feel more confident in their ability to be successful at Clemson, help students feel more connected to what their goals are, and to take what they're learning and put into action what their choices are, and doing the things that will help them be more productive and feel good about how they're using their time. We hire about 200 student employees each semester to work at the ASC, and we ask them what their experience was like. And you can see from the data here that student employees feel like they've had a valuable experience as well. One of the things we focus on and partner with Neil's team on is how do we help our student employees develop competencies that will apply to after they graduate from Clemson, that will transfer to the workplace or transfer to graduate school or professional school. And we're proud of the fact that 87% of our peer leaders would recommend being a peer leader to other interested and qualified students. So if you'd like to learn more about the ASC, we are on Facebook, we're on Instagram. You can scan this QR code here to learn more about our services at clemson.edu/ASC. What I would especially draw your attention to is one of our links for new students to learn more about ASC services. If there's an opportunity for you to visit the website, I would encourage you to take a look at that page as well. It gives a nice summary of our services and what we aim to do with those services and links to more information about our services. I think it's my turn now to turn it over to Dr. Burton to talk about the Center for Career and Professional Development.
Thanks, Sue. I appreciate that. And I've had 3 students come through Clemson. I think all 3 of them utilized the ASC and had wonderful things to say about it. So I would strongly encourage all you parents to make sure that your students know where it is and make sure to take full advantage of it. So as Dr. Horton said, my name is Neil Burton. I'm with the Center for Career and Professional Development, and it might seem a little odd for me to be chatting with you about career services at this juncture of your Clemson experience. You're probably more interested in where your students are going to be sleeping at night, where they're going to be eating, what courses they're going to be taking, rather than what they're going to be doing after they graduate. But it really does pay for students to start thinking about post-Clemson aspirations early on in their tenure here. Next slide, please. So just a couple of little tidbits from a national survey. These are not just Clemson students. These are freshmen all over the country. It's not a surprise to me to see that career guidance was the second most requested area for assistance for these students, just behind maybe some help finding some ways to connect with other folks. They're thinking about it earlier and earlier. You can see that almost 6 in 10 are wanting some assistance in finding that educational plan that's going to lead to their desired job, and almost half are kind of up in the air and looking for some help to figure out, okay, how am I going to match what I'm interested in with potential occupations? Next slide. This is actually from Clemson students, and we were stoked about these results as well. 4 out of 5 students as freshmen spoke to a faculty member or possibly a staff member about their post-Clemson plans. So they're already having those conversations, getting a little bit of information from the folks that they're interacting with to find out what some of those options might be. 86% plan to engage in a co-op or an internship or student teaching or a nursing practicum, some kind of experiential education, and another 10% were thinking about it. So almost 100% of our students are thinking about that, which we think is terrific, because experiential education is just a fantastic opportunity, something that Clemson does exceptionally well. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. And then the last statistic there, lots of students are saying very early in their career that they got some work-related knowledge in their freshman year. That does my heart good. That tells me that our faculty and staff are making sure that they're connecting the knowledge in the classroom to their students' aspirations. Again, something that makes me particularly proud to be here at Clemson. Next slide. Yeah, so just a couple little bragging points here. I'm not going to read these points to you. I'm sure you're capable of doing that yourself. But I am gratified that some national organizations have recognized the work that we do here in our center. 5 out of the last 8 years, we've been #1 according to Princeton Review. Our internship efforts have been in the top 10 for the last 5 years. I think we were #3 last year. We're #7 this year, so we have a little bit of work to do there. And we were top 20 in experiential education by U.S. News and World Report. We're the only Clemson program in the top 20 each of the last 2 years. So proud that we're getting that recognition. Next slide. But this is really what matters more to me. when a student walks in the door, and it takes courage to walk into a career center where you think, gosh, do I need to wear a suit to come in and see these folks? Oh, they're going to judge me when I come in and I have on flip-flops, or my resume is just a couple of lines long. That's not the case at all. We make sure that when your student comes to see us, that they feel welcome, that they are, that they know that we're glad that they're here. I think if you were to come visit us, you would see that as well. And we certainly welcome you to do that. Something else that I'm particularly proud of, when they leave, they feel like they got what they needed. And that's not just a few of them. That's not most of them. 100% of the students that filled out our survey, and that's a pretty high percentage, said, yes, we got what we needed while we were there. And we have a lot of repeat business as well. So so a lot of students are coming back to see us for additional assistance further on in their tenure. Something else that's really good, I can't really take a whole lot of credit for this because it's the university as a whole, but 97% of our recent graduates had found a home within 6 months of graduation. So that means they might be in, probably 23% of our students are going on to grad school. Another percentage are going on into the armed forces. Some students are electing to travel or take a gap year before starting work. And then a large, over 60% of them have already accepted a full-time role. So 97%, there's still 3% that we need to work with, and we do follow up with them and work with them after graduation. But our students are extremely successful in finding their life after Clemson role very shortly after graduation. Next slide. So just a quick word about this. We have a 4-year plan or a 4-step plan for our students so that they have an assignment, if you will, each year that they're here. During their first year, I strongly encourage you to encourage your students to think about their social media. I'm sure most of your students have a social media account, probably several. And my question to you is, would you or would your student feel comfortable with a potential employer seeing what's posted on those social media accounts? Now might be the time to start curating some of those accounts to make sure that they're more appropriate for professional contact, because employers will do some research if they're going to spend, over $100,000 in recruiting, paying, retaining a new worker. They are going to do some research to find out what kind of student they're going to be bringing on to their organization. I'd also encourage you to think about a LinkedIn account. It's a great way to start collecting the information that your student is gathering from summer jobs and things like that. It's a whole lot easier to go and grab that off of LinkedIn and toss it into a resume than it is to try and create a resume just from scratch. If you're like me, it's also easier to have LinkedIn remember what you did a couple of years ago, as opposed to you trying to knock the noggin and shake that loose. Getting into the second year, I would strongly encourage your student to come see a career fair. We have 2 of those big fairs. We actually have a lot of smaller fairs for individual departments, but we have 2 big fairs. The one that's coming up next is September 26, 27, and 28. It'll be in Little John Coliseum, and we'll have over 400 employers there that are eager to see Clemson students. It can be overwhelming. We'll have over several thousands of students who come in and mingle with these employers. And if you're walking in for the first time, it can be overwhelming. If you go before you really need a job, before you're really starting to look, but you're just interested to see what it's like, those students can come in, catch one of our staff members, and we'll give them a tour of the fair, kind of show them how to approach an employer. Actually, if we see an employer that's has a lull between students, we'll send them out there to kind of practice their elevator pitch. But it does kind of tamp down the nerves so that when they go back to a future fair and they are looking for an opportunity, the nerves are a whole lot more manageable. During their third year, I would strongly encourage your student to think about experiential education, a co-op or an internship, something like that. Again, I'm going to get into the benefits in another slide or two, but that's about the time they need to start thinking about that. And as they near the end of their Clemson career, they need to be thinking about what comes next and preparing to interview for those opportunities. Our students are very competitive, and we want to give them a competitive edge. And one way we do that is with mock interviews. If your student is going to be going to medical school or graduate school or interviewing for a full-time job, they can tell us what they're interviewing for, and we'll create questions to ask them so that they can get some practice doing that. And that's not only going to give them great feedback on some things that they might do differently, maybe polish a little bit, but it's also going to calm the nerves down. They've been through that, so they know what to expect. They're going to do a little bit better with that. So we offer all of those services. We certainly encourage the students to come see us each year that they're here at Clemson. Next slide. So this is a pretty interesting statistic. I found that I was stunned when I saw this, frankly. Employers simply don't put the same weight on GPA as they used to even 5 years ago. You can see it used to be, 3 in 4 companies would say that that's going to be a big issue. Now less than half are saying that, almost a third. So if they're not paying as much attention to GPA, and I say as much attention, they're still paying attention, but not as much. What are they focused on? Next slide. It's our competencies. These are skill sets that our employers have said, we want new people in our organization to have these skill sets before they start. Sue alluded to this. She is a terrific partner. She and her staff are terrific partners in helping us communicate these to students and help them start developing their proficiencies in these areas. Now, if you were to ask your 17, 18-year-old, are you a good communicator? They're going to say, yeah, man, I'm a pro. I've been doing it since I was 2. And that's true, but how are they at speaking in public? How are they at writing a professional email to a boss or to a professor or something like that? We can always get better at these. These are lifelong skills. Our hope is that we're going to move them along that proficiency continuum so that when they graduate, they're better at it. Not only then they're better based on what they were as freshmen, but also they're better at it than maybe a graduate from Auburn or NC State or Georgia Tech or some other folks that are going to be competing with them for some of these opportunities. Next slide. So you'll see the 4th line down, competencies. This is one of the major factors that employers are looking for these days. And it's not something that's going to happen accidentally. This is something that your students need to be intentional about. And we're glad that Clemson does a great job with faculty and staff members repeating this to your students so that they kind of get that it's important and doing a really good job of teaching them how to excel in some of these competencies. Next slide. Here's our engaged learning or our experiential education slide. And you can see that 2/3 of our students engage in some kind of experiential learning activity. That used to be in the 70s. And I think our Zoom generation has maybe encouraged students to, or allowed students to kind of disengage. They really need to re-engage. This is something that's extremely important. A degree from Clemson is extremely compelling. It is a ticket to some post-college success, but the job market is going to start to turn around. Maybe in the last half of this year, certainly sometime in 2024. By the time your students are starting to graduate, that unemployment rate might be up there at 5 or 6%. Your students need to take action while they're in school to make sure that they're setting themselves up for success, and doing a co-op or an internship is absolutely a key to that. People who do these kind of things, 75% will receive a full-time offer from their employer. Now, they don't have to accept that offer, but man, what a great insurance policy to slip in your back pocket during your senior year, knowing I've got that. If nothing else materializes, I've got that opportunity. We also have an on-campus internship program, which is terrific. Sue, I think you actually have some of these, and Casey and Matthew, you might have some as well. I don't know if Tessa has any over there in her office, but we have a lot of these students who are working in professional environments under the tutelage of some really bright people, and they get this experience and they're paid for it without ever having to leave campus, without having to stop their course schedule. They can work 12 to 15 hours a week, make $12, $14 an hour, and really gain some terrific experience. Why is that important? Students who go through our UPIC program are 20% more likely to have a job at graduation than students who don't. Now, your student can't do this as a freshman, but they can as a sophomore. So do have them start to think about this early on. And you can see that last little bullet point in orange. People who do experiential education have twice as many job offers as students who don't. So it's not just, will I have an opportunity? Will I have a choice of opportunity? And that's a big deal as well. Next slide. So these are some resources. You can see that we actually have a site for parents. I encourage you to go out there and look. We've got a lot of really cool resources. If your student happens to be looking for a part-time job, on August 30th in the Hendricks Student Center from 1 to 3, we're going to have a part-time job fair. We'll have probably 40 to 50 employers in there. Your students do not need to dress up for that. They can wear their board shorts and flops or whatever it is that they want to wear. They can come up to our office that week and we can help them put together a resume. But it's a terrific opportunity to see some on-campus and near campus employers who have some opportunities. So if your student might be interested in that, do let them know about that. We'll also advertise that, but it helps if students hear it more than once. Next slide. So you got, a little too far. There we go. This is my last slide. You guys have made it to the end of my little section. Two things that I want to highlight for you. One, there's no one as invested in your students' post-Clemson success as I am, other than maybe yourself. So I want to be your partner. I want to make sure that we're working together in concert to help your student make the most of the Clemson experience so that they're ready for that next step. So two things I want to highlight on this is, one, I want you to be a guide for your student. I want you to be an advisor for your student. I don't want you to be a decision maker. And I say that because decision making is a skill that they really need to learn. It's one of those competencies that they need to master. And if you're making decisions for them, maybe that helps them identify that first job after graduation, but that's not my concern. I don't want your student to find a great job after Clemson. I want them to have a great career. And that means finding the next job and the next job and the next job after that. Your student, I'm 56 years old. I've had 3 professional positions in my career. Your students are going to average 15 jobs during their career. So that means some of them are going to have more than that. And so we need to make sure that we equip them to manage that kind of churn and not just kind of lay it out for them step by step. The last thing I'm going to say is be open to some innovative career paths. There are jobs that exist today that didn't exist 5 years ago. I saw a statistic recently that said 67%, 2/3 of today's first graders will have jobs that don't currently exist today. So if your student comes home and mentions a job opportunity to you and you don't necessarily recognize what it is, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a, hey, no, you can't do that. Make sure that you're open to their to what they want to do and maybe some things that you hadn't considered previously. Again, thank you for your time. I'm excited about your student being here. I want to see them multiple times while they're here on campus, so encourage them to come up and see us as often as they want to, but certainly early during their tenure. It is now my privilege to introduce Matthew Boudreau, who's going to take the next section.
All right. Thanks, Neil. Appreciate it, buddy. All right, everyone. Like I said earlier, my name is Matthew Boudreau, and I serve as the Assistant Director of Orientation Programs here at Clemson, which means that my job is to welcome all of our incoming students And then along with the help of Casey, our parents and families and guests, loved ones, to the institution. That is what my job is. So if we can go to the next slide, Casey. And what I'm going to talk about here today is Welcome Week. So all of our incoming students, in theory, have experienced orientation in many capacities thus far here at Clemson, whether that was gaining access and working through their virtual orientation modules, course registration, meeting with an academic advisor. Some of our students, parents and guests even on the call, maybe attended a Ready, Set, Roar session, our in-person orientation. And then the next step in the orientation world or journey for all of our incoming students is to participate in Welcome Week. So this is really an exciting week for students to kind of acclimate to the institution, both socially and academically. As you can see, probably from the time that your student moves in until that first day of actual school, there's about a week in between for most. And you might be thinking, oh, well, what could they possibly be doing for a week before school starts? It's me. It's Welcome Week. This is exactly what we're doing. So again, the point, the kind of context or the point of what Welcome Week is for us to welcome your students to Clemson, kind of show them the ropes in a little bit more of a relaxed, fun environment. And we have a lot of fun and engaging programming for them for that entire first week that they're here prior to class. Again, kind of through the lens of academic and also social as well. So the key dates to kind of think about whenever we talk about Welcome Week is August 16th through the 23rd. That is like our first day of like our first official Welcome Week programming event that might happen, going all the way until the first day of school, starting on the 23rd. You might be thinking, oh, my student might not have moved in by the 16th just yet. What does that mean? All is well. We do programming or start Welcome Week from the first day of move-in for any of our students, whether you might be moving in on day 1 or day 4 of that move-in period. We will start Welcome Week programming on the first day, as soon as our first students kind of step foot onto campus here at Clemson. And then we won't start any of our like large scale traditional programming, things that you don't want to miss out on as an incoming student until 100% of our students get here by that Saturday and Sunday. So again, those are kind of like the key dates to remember or to think about when we think of Welcome Week, and some things that your students can expect to see at Welcome Week is kind of like a little snapshot here of what our signature events look like. So we'll highlight our late night programming series at the Barnes Center with Unites and our Unite staff. The idea of all of our students becoming leaders at the end of their Clemson experience is really important to us, not only as like a division and student affairs, but also just overall holistically as an institution. So we actually will put your students through a Clemson Leader Day cohorted based program in their small groups, which I'll get to in a little bit, to where they can learn some basic leadership concepts and kind of get their foot started on the right path to becoming that ultimate Clemson leader at the end of their 4+ years here. We'll host our welcome rally combined with our Central Spirit Traditions event, which is basically like a large pep rally. If you can think of a large scale college institutional pep rally, that's what that event is. And Central Spirit, our student spirit organization here on campus, helps us facilitate what that programming looks like and teaches all of our incoming students kind of the Clemson traditions, cheers they might do at a football game, things that they could expect to see in their time as a Clemson student when it comes to spirit and traditions. We'll have Tiger Brow, which is our large 500+ student organizational fair that is housed inside of the concourse of the football stadium. It really is a sight to see, to watch 500 student organizations table and all of our incoming students kind of walking from table to table in the concourse of Memorial Stadium, learning about student organizations and maybe what they want to get involved in here at on campus. We'll have an entire theme night sometimes inside of Welcome Week. One of our highlights is Glow Night, where we'll bring in a glow-in-the-dark skating ring, mini golf, some silent disco. If your students attended Ready, Set, Roar, they know all about what a silent disco is. And we'll have kind of like the whole night theme to where it's a big glow night. We'll give them a bunch of glow sticks, glow paint, all that jazz. And continuing that theme of Glow Night with Glow Guts, our signature end of Welcome Week event. Picture a large yoga session led by Anderson Yoga Center, which is like a town just right near Clemson. Their instructors will come in and give the students a yoga session after their first day of school to kind of wind down from the day and those stresses that they might have completing their first day of college. We'll do some signature events, which includes our incoming class photo, which is in the shape of a paw on the football field. So a fun chance for your students to engage or be on the football field. Maybe they might not get that opportunity again in their time here at Clemson. So they have a chance to come on out on the football field and take a class photo. And then all of our Clemson University coaches from our athletics world come and kind of do a little showcase for them as well. They talk about their fall and spring sports that they might have, how students can attend those events, what they might be looking for in terms of spirit, programming, collaboration, and really just kind of gets them excited for the athletics piece of college here at Clemson. Our president hosts a cookout just outside of Little John Coliseum for our students on this day. So lunch will be covered by the president on this day. He's out there meeting all the students, shaking their hand, getting to know them. It really is a wonderful, intimate kind of event for as large of a scale of a cookout that is. And then obviously we have convocation going on that day as well to, again, kick off the school year correctly and kind of help our students acclimate academically to the institution. As Sue mentioned earlier, we kind of have our ASC Jumpstart workshop housed inside of Welcome Week as kind of like a dual programming effort from both of our offices. And then Cooper Library and our library staff host a really fun arcade to learn about the library resources. It's actually a really big popular event that we have during Welcome Week. And they really have some really fun, entertaining, engaging ways for students to learn all about the library. So next slide, please, Casey. You might be thinking, okay, well, how can my students learn about where to go during Welcome Week, or how will they be in contact? Not only will your students receive email communication from us in our office in the Center for Student Leadership and Engagement, but on day 2, I believe, or maybe even day 1 of Welcome Week leader training. So we have a student staff of 8 Welcome Week exec members who help plan out what Welcome Week looks like for our incoming students, and 160 Welcome Week leaders. These are current student peer leaders who kind of help our incoming students guide their way through their first week here at Clemson. Those students will reach out to your students directly through their Clemson email, ask them to join some group messages with their small group, basically gave them the whole rundown of the week. And then we also upload our entire schedule into the CU Events app, which is the most up-to-date live current schedule that will have of our Welcome Week programming, i.e., let's say if an event that's outside gets rained out, we'll send a push notification through that out telling students, hey, this event unfortunately might be canceled because of the rain or weather, insert things like that. But that is how your student will know, the 3-ish ways that your students will know about what is Welcome Week, how can I get involved in Welcome Week, and where do I need to go for Welcome Week. And I believe that's it. Again, Welcome Week is just right around the corner. It's really only right around 15 days away. So again, my Welcome Week exec team and I are working really hard to make sure that your students feel welcomed into the institution, that they have a lot of things to do, so they're not just staying in their residence hall room for, the entirety of that week before the first day of class. And we want to make sure that they get connected socially and academically to the institution. So we are excited to get them here in just a few weeks. And if you all have any questions about Welcome Week, again, feel free to add them in the chat and I'll try to go ahead and answer them. But until then, I think I will go ahead and pass it off to Tessa for the rest of our little webinar.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all tonight. I mean, we can't see you, but I assume that you can see us. So great, great to be with you all. You have heard about how to make sure your students are successful in their academics here, how to make sure they're successful in their next steps, how to make sure that transition is successful. Our office is kind of anything else, or if they forget about what you have heard, or you all forget about what you have heard tonight, our office can be that connector, just that extra resource when you're just not sure. So we are the ombuds office. I know a lot of people haven't heard of that. So I just want to make sure you remember, oh, there's that one office that we can go to if we need to. That's us. So Casey, go ahead. In the next slide. So we are a place to go if you or your students, because family members can reach out to us as well, just don't know where to go. And that's for questions that you don't know the answers to, concerns, and you don't know whether to escalate those concerns, how to escalate those concerns, or some good old conflict resolution, and you just need some help figuring out what to do next. And this can be truly anything. So roommate conflict, grade disputes with professors, am I in the right major? I just want to talk to someone about this. Family members can reach out to us and say, my student's struggling with this. What resources are out there? And my goal is to just help you all know what you're going to do next, whatever that may be. Casey, go ahead and hit that next one. So in case you're curious, I get the question a lot, whether it's an acronym. The word ombuds is a Swedish word, and the ombuds field has been in the US only about since the 1950s, and it's still relatively new, relatively unknown. I rarely have people who, when I tell them I'm an ombuds, they're like, oh, right, yeah. So hopefully that will be you now, because you'll be hearing about this. Go ahead, Casey, to the next slide. So we do work on two different levels, and if you can do the next one, that will be, so the first level is just that local support. People come to us and we help you figure out those next steps. So that can be one-on-one coaching. That can be making sure that you are connected to the right resource on campus, the right person who's going to have the information that you need. Sometimes it's mediating. So bringing two people together. That can sometimes be students and students. It can be professors and students. It can be staff members and students, whoever is out there and is struggling, and just give you the information that you need. And then at the same time, the Ombuds office is working on the global scale. So Casey, go ahead with the next one. Thank you. Trying to let leaders know, hey, this is what's going on. Here's what students in general at Clemson are struggling with. And here are some recommendations for how things could change so that they're moving forward in a better way. So we have that, yes, anyone can come to us and we're helping them through it, but we're also trying to impact things on a systemic level at Clemson. The other thing that we do, and I have a slide about this in a minute, is training. So I can offer training to different groups, and I also have training that is open at least for a year, is how I've been doing it so far, and that anyone, faculty, staff, and students can come to. So that's just building up people's competencies so that when a conflict comes up, you don't always have to come to our office. You've got the skills to handle things. Go ahead on that next one. We often get, well, aren't you HR? Aren't you a counseling center? And Casey, you can feel free to just put all four up and I can talk through them. Thank you. What makes our office unique, we do similar things to advocacy and success. I'm sure you've heard about that, to the counseling center, to HR, but this is what makes our office unique. We operate from these 4 standards, and this is true for any ombuds, any organizational ombuds office that you hear of. So the first is we're impartial. We don't act as advocates, but we don't represent the university in any official way. We help people figure out those next steps, and we can be that neutral person that everyone can trust so that they're willing to come to the table and work things out. Second is we're informal. If you want a formal process, a formal way to resolve your situation, we can make sure you know what those options are, what they will look like, but then we can also help you brainstorm an informal resolution to your situation. Third is we're independent, so not a part of student affairs, not a part of access and equity. We are our own separate animal. And then the last thing that keeps people coming back to us is that we're confidential. So we won't tell anyone that you all have reached out to us or that your student has reached out to us and what the concern was, unless you want us to reach out to someone else and bring them into the situation. But that remains in your control. So you can explore, what should I do? Where should I go without that retaliation or that fear of judgment? Go ahead to that next one. Because of those standards, there are some things that we don't do. We are not mandatory reporters based on Title IX, so we don't accept notice on behalf of the university. I mentioned that we don't advocate for anyone. We can't change policies ourselves, so sometimes I might wish I had that power, but we can say, hey, this is a policy that's impacting students negatively. Here are some recommendations for how that could change so that it's serving the students rather than harming them. We also can't participate in any formal process. And then the records that we keep are just what the concern is, what the issue is, and where in the university that's coming from. So if your student comes to us, we would try to figure out what their major is so that we could say, oh, you know what? A lot of people coming out of this college, a lot of students coming out of this college have these concerns. And that's the records that we would keep. We're not keeping track of the names of people who come to us. Go ahead. So then on the more fun side, the proactive side, I mentioned that we do trainings. So these are some topics of trainings that I do throughout the year that your student can reach out to me and get connected to. We can also, if there are student groups that sometimes I'll work with the different governments on campus, I can facilitate those large group discussions in a more proactive way. I can also help groups establish shared expectations for moving forward. And then if your student is starting something new, maybe one of the internships that are a fantastic opportunity through Neil's office, I can also do some one-on-one coaching just to prepare them for that new role, a leadership role, a supervision role, and not necessarily in response to a crisis, but just to be proactive and make sure they're going into it intentionally. Go ahead. So the next one should be my last slide. So this is our contact information. We are located right off campus across from the Little John Coliseum next to the Esso Club, which is a restaurant that I'm sure your students will get to know. And so, but we're still within walking distance, so students can still walk to us. We meet virtually, we meet people after hours, we kind of do whatever makes sense for the people that we are working with. And we've got 2 ombuds. So Gordon Halfaker serves faculty and students, and then I serve faculty, staff, and students. So you can keep our numbers, reach out to us when anything comes up, and we'll just make sure to get you in the right place. And that was everything that I wanted to share. So Casey, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I know we have a couple lingering questions that our team is working on getting answered in our remaining few minutes, but to our panelists, want to thank you again so much for being here and sharing your expertise as you all do so well. To our parents and families, thank you again for joining us. A couple last reminders as we close out here. Again, this webinar is being recorded as a reminder. So as soon as we can get everything kind of processed on our end over the next few days, we will send that out through the Clemson Parent and Family Experience portal. Long name, but that is kind of our hub for all things parent and family. If you're ever looking for all those in one place, all those recordings do live on our Clemson Family Programs YouTube page. So student assistant extraordinaire McKenna, who has been helping answer questions tonight and send links, I'll have her go ahead and send that in the chat as well, just so you all know that that is a place that you can find that one. So again, all those can be found on the Clemson Family Programs YouTube page. And then any questions in general, whether that's about content you've heard tonight, content you've heard throughout other sessions this summer, you were able to join us on campus for Ready, Set, Roar, anything you may be thinking as you continue to kind of gear up for move-in and for all things August, please know that you can always direct those to our office and to my team specifically. So cufamilies@clemson.edu is our families email account, or to myself at cmford@clemson.edu. As everyone has shared this evening, we really do want your student to succeed and are here to help that happen. So as you have questions, as always, feel free to reach out. All right, I'm going to let our folks answer any final questions here in the chat, but otherwise, until next time, go Tigers. Good night, everyone.